At noon, the Dragon King's wedding glass turned black. One breath earlier, the court had been laughing because Tessa Brine's weather glass looked harmless inside its garland of white fire lilies and gold ribbon. They had hung it above the sunward sky dock as decoration. Stripped of its anchor chains, its storm weights removed, its black surface polished until noble women could admire their veils in it. Beyond the wedding dock, 300 dragon ships waited in formation under a perfect summer sky. If the armada turned wrong at the noon flare, the first line would enter enemy range before the wedding bells finished ringing. Tessa stood below the glass, with salt wind cutting through her gray work dress and her wrists bound in ceremonial silk, so the guests would not see rope. The silk was white. That made it worse. Rope admitted what it was. Admiral Halvern Kraus had chosen the silk himself. Storm Reader Brine has been relieved of active weather authority, he announced to the court, his sea blue admiral's coat bright with metals and sun thread. By order of Sky Command, her records are under review for deliberate falsification, campaign delay, and disruption of His Majesty's wedding procession. The nobles watched from the raised sun balconies, all silver masks and pale feathers. Behind them, wedding banners snapped in the high wind. Below them, dragon pilots waited beside bronze gangways, hands on rail lines, eyes forward, pretending not to listen. Foreign witnesses were not only watching a marriage, they were watching whether Dorian still commanded the sky. Tessa looked past them all. She watched the sun, not the brightness of it, not the heat, the pull. No one respected weather until it took something expensive. Dragon King Dorian Cael stood at the center of the wedding dock, in white and black ceremonial armor, his wedding mantle pinned with a crown of carved sunstone. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and severe in the way of men trained to command before they were old enough to doubt. His dark gold hair was drawn back from his face with a dragon bone clasp. His eyes were the color of storm amber, fixed not on Tessa, but on the armada beyond her. That was what hurt. He did not look cruel. He looked certain. "You warned that the fleet would turn backward through daylight," Dorian said. "I warned that the noon current had been reversed." Halvern gave a soft, patient laugh. "Wind does not reverse under clear sun. False sun does." Several nobles laughed then. The phrase sounded theatrical enough for wedding gossip. False sun, black glass, aging storm reader. A woman too long beside maps, smelling of salt and wax, muttering currents into a court that preferred songs. Tessa did not lower her eyes. Dorian's jaw tightened. "Your warning delayed the eastern wing 2 days. It saved them 2 days." 3 mornings earlier, her last current sheet had crossed his war table with a black noon mark drawn through the first wing's route. Dorian had seen it. He had not called it treason then. He had only looked at Halvern, listened when the admiral promised a clean wedding turn, and chosen the procession that would keep the foreign houses seated. That was the mistake she could still feel between them. Not ignorance. Convenience with a crown on it. "The admiral found no hostile weather," Dorian said. "The admiral does not read weather," Tessa answered. "He reads victory reports before bodies are counted." The laughter stopped. Halvern's smile stayed in place, but his right hand closed around the golden sun compass at his belt. There, not fear yet, a small correction, a hand guarding the wrong object too quickly. The bride's herald shifted beside the archway, uncomfortable now. The wedding procession waited behind curtains of silk and flame. Foreign witnesses had come for a marriage alliance and a demonstration of royal sky power. Dorian's fleet was meant to turn at noon, unfold its dragon sails, and carve his wedding sigil across the sky. Clean, beautiful, obedient. Tessa had seen the current beneath it, a river of sun-pulled air running the wrong way. "Your Majesty," Halvern said, "if we allow every dismissed technician to halt a royal procession with invisible weather, no campaign will leave harbor. Her glass is ornamental now. Let the court enjoy the wedding." Tessa looked up at the black weather glass. It hung inside its wedding frame like a captured eye. "It cannot read while unanchored," she said. Halvern bowed toward her, as if indulging a child. Then it cannot accuse. It can still remember pressure. Dorian's gaze moved from the armada to her. For the first time that morning, he looked at her hands. The ceremonial silk had been tied too tightly around her wrists. Her fingers had begun to darken at the tips. A weather reader needed fingers to set anchor weight, adjust wind chain, tap glass, feel tremor. Halvern had not gagged her. He had done something smarter. He had let her speak where she could not work. Dorian's expression did not soften, but it sharpened. "Untie her hands," he said. Halvern turned. "Your Majesty, she may attempt to interfere with the procession signal. Untie them." A guard cut the silk. Tessa did not thank the king. The blood returning to her fingers hurt more than the binding had. Dorian stepped closer, close enough that the sunstone at his shoulder threw hard gold light over her face. "If I delay the wedding turn and you are wrong, the alliance fractures. If you do not delay it, and I am right, your first wing dies where the enemy can cheer." His eyes held hers. Danger moved between them. Not romance, not trust. The colder thing before trust, when a powerful man realizes the woman he dismissed may understand the battlefield better than his banners do. Halvern stepped between them. "Noon is upon us." Above the dock, the wedding bells began their first clear note. The armada answered. Dragon ships unfurled their wing sails in the sky, bronze ribs catching sunlight. Pilots raised royal banners. The first formation tilted, ready for the ceremonial turn. Tessa reached for the glass frame. 2 guards moved. Dorian lifted one hand. They stopped. Halvern's voice lowered. "Your Majesty, this is public indulgence of sabotage." "No," Dorian said. "It is one weather line." Tessa touched the black weather glass. Cold shot up her arm. The wedding ribbons around the frame blackened at once. The white fire lilies curled into ash. The gold ribbon snapped loose in the wind. Deep inside the glass, noon vanished. The court saw night, not reflected, revealed. The glass showed the armada from above, but the ships were not flying forward through sunlight. They were drifting backward inside a river of red-gold air, sails bent toward a burning sun that sat too low and too large behind enemy cliffs. Tessa's throat tightened. "The false current is already under them," she said. A shout rose from the lower docks. Dorian turned toward the real sky. The first line of dragon ships tilted. Not toward the wedding sigil, toward the enemy coast. Halvern's golden sun compass began spinning at his belt. Tessa looked at the compass, then at the blackened wedding frame around her glass. "The compass is reading the false sun," she said. And someone replaced the weather record that should have stopped it. The wedding bells rang a second time. In the sky, the Dragon King's first wing began to turn against him. The first distress flag snapped upside down before the court understood what it meant. It was not a battle flag. Not yet. It was a pilot's correction signal, a narrow strip of red cloth meant to flash once when a wing turned too sharply into crosswind. In the sky beyond the sunward dock, it flashed 3 times, then 4. Then every ship in the first wing began answering at once. Bronze dragon sails tilted against their own formation. Wing ribs strained. The forward vessels tried to correct toward the royal wedding sigil, but their sails bowed backward as if an invisible hand had hooked the air beneath them and dragged them toward the enemy coast. The black weather glass showed what the naked eye could not. Inside its dark surface, the enemy cliffs rose bright and close, burning red under a false sun. The first wing was not merely drifting, it was being pulled into a current shaped like a road. Dorian Cael's voice struck the dock like a command bell. "Hold the first wing." Signal officers moved at once. Halvern Krause moved faster. "Sky Command maintains procession course," the admiral called. "No correction until the wedding turn completes." Dorian turned on him. "I gave an order, and I invoke campaign procession law," Halvern said, loud enough for the foreign witnesses to hear. "During public fleet demonstration, No panic correction may override Admiralty formation unless enemy fire is confirmed. Tessa's eyes stayed on the glass. By the time enemy fire is confirmed, they will be inside it. Halvern did not look at her. The first wing is correcting through sunlift. No, she said. They are fighting a false current under their keels. The lower signal platform erupted in motion. Pilots shouted upward from bronze ladders. Young flag runners sprinted across the dock with message strips clenched in their teeth. The wedding musicians stopped playing one by one until the only music left was sail wires screaming in the high air. Dorian stepped toward the weather frame. No ship follows the sun compass. Halvern's golden compass spun so fast at his belt that its needle became a ring. The admiral covered it with his hand. Tessa saw that. So did Dorian. "Remove your hand," the Dragon King said. Halvern's smile appeared by force. "Your Majesty, the compass is reacting to proximity disturbance from her glass." "The glass is unanchored," Tessa said. "It cannot disturb Sky Command. It can only show pressure memory." "Convenient," Halvern said. "Procedural," she answered. "Anchor chains, storm weights, true north hook. Without them, it reads like an eye without a spine." Dorian looked at the wedding frame wrapped around the glass. "Anchor it." A silence crossed the dock. Not fear of weather, fear of ruining the wedding altar. The black weather glass hung above the procession arch inside a crown-shaped frame of gold, white flowers, and sunsilk. Its old iron anchor hooks had been removed to make room for ribbons. The storm weights were gone. The true north chain had been replaced with a pearl cord. Tessa looked at Dorian. "Decor cannot correct weather. Anchor the glass or watch your ships obey the lie." Halvern stepped in. "She wants access to the glass mechanism. That is the interference she was dismissed for." Tessa laughed once, sharp and dry. "I was dismissed for marking a current your reports pretended not to see." Dorian's gaze cut to the record table. "Bring the noon current sheet." A junior weather clerk froze. Halvern said, "The Admiralty copy has already been verified." "Bring it." The clerk ran to the side table and returned with a long strip of sun-treated vellum. Dorian unrolled it against the black railing. The court leaned in without seeming to. The map was clean. Too clean. A golden line marked the royal turn beneath a clear sun. No black noon mark, no red drift, no false current beneath the first wing. Tessa did not touch it at first. She smelled it. Salt wax. New heat. No old air. "This is not my sheet." Halvern sighed. "Naturally." Tessa pointed to the edge. "Weather vellum cures rough after 3 dawn readings. This edge is soft. It was dried this morning." The clerk went pale. Dorian looked at him. "Who replaced the sheet?" The clerk's throat worked. "It came from Admiralty Review." Halvern's voice cooled. "Careful." Tessa looked at the boy. "Weather does not become less true because a medal stands behind it." The clerk's eyes dropped. "The original was taken to the East chart room." "By whom?" Dorian asked. Halvern answered before he could. "By my office." Because her original contained falsified storm delay marks. "The black noon mark," Tessa said. "The one under your compass needle." The glass above them groaned. In its dark reflection, the first wing's lead ship shuddered sideways. A dragon sail tore loose from its upper rib and snapped backward. The pilot released a burst of blue flare. Confusion. Not enemy contact yet, but close. Dorian's face hardened. "Tessa Brine speaks before Sky Command." A murmur ran through the balconies. Halvern stepped toward him. "Your Majesty, you cannot restore a dismissed weather reader in the middle of a royal wedding procession." "I did not restore her," Dorian said. "I let her speak." Tessa gave him no gratitude. Speaking without tools was how courts pretended to listen. She reached up and tore the pearl cord from the glass frame. A noblewoman cried out as the wedding flowers spilled down in white ash. Tessa caught the loose glass hook with one hand and pulled it toward the old iron notch beneath the arch. "I need chain." The signal captain hesitated. Dorian removed the wedding mantle clasp from his own shoulder. Beneath its gold beauty lay a short length of black command chain, dragon-forged and heavy. He held it out. Tessa looked at him, not softening, measuring. "That chain follows your banner," she said. "Then tell me where to place it." There it was again. Not apology, not trust, usefulness under pressure. "True north notch," she said. "Not the crown hook, the black notch behind it." Dorian climbed the first step of the arch himself. Halvern's expression tightened. "Your Majesty, that chain is bound to royal wind. If she misanchors it, the armada will follow her error." Tessa looked up at Dorian, then at the glass. "No, if I misanchor it, the glass will go blind." She looped the first storm line around the old hook, using torn wedding ribbon because the real chain had been removed. Dorian locked the command chain into the black notch. The glass swung once, then stopped. Noon vanished inside it again. This time, the darkness deepened until stars appeared in the middle of day. The true current map formed across the glass. One gold road beneath the royal banner, one black river running under it, and between them a red line pulling the first wing toward the enemy cliffs. At the base of the red line, a symbol burned bright. Not a weather mark. A command mark. Dorian saw it. Tessa did too. The false current was not only pulling the fleet, it was obeying a sky command signal. The golden sun compass at Halvern's belt cracked open. Inside, a tiny red enemy flare was still burning. The lead ship dropped emergency drag sails. White canvas burst beneath its bronze ribs like torn wings, catching the wrong wind so hard the vessel lurched sideways in the noon sky. Two escort ships tried to answer, but their own sails bent backward, dragged by the same red current hidden under sunlight. Signal bells began ringing across the sunward sky dock. Not wedding bells now. War bells. Dragon pilots on the lower platforms shouted over one another. Flag runners slipped on spilled flower ash. Foreign witnesses stood behind the wedding rails with their veils lifted, no longer pretending this was ceremony. Dorian Cael turned from the anchored glass to the signal tower. "Hold the first wing. Cut ceremonial formation. No ship follows the sun compass." The tower captain repeated the order into a brass wind horn. Halvern Krause's voice struck over it. "Sky command countermand. Maintain procession formation until hostile contact is confirmed." The tower captain froze between king and admiral. Tessa did not look at him. She looked into the black weather glass. "The first wing has 3 minutes before the cliffs take their lower wind," she said. Halvern rounded on her. "You do not command ships." "No," she said. "Weather does." Dorian looked toward the sky, where the first wing had begun to fold inward around its lead vessel. His jaw tightened. "Captain, obey me." Halvern stepped onto the signal dais. Under wedding campaign law, the Admiralty holds operational sky command until the royal banner completes its public turn. His Majesty himself approved that chain. Dorian went still. The foreign witnesses heard it. So did Tessa. There it was again. Not an enemy blade, not open betrayal, a legal knot tied before the wind changed. Dorian's approval, his need for a flawless wedding procession, had given Halvern the hour in which correction could be delayed. Tessa pointed to the glass. "If your law waits for hostile contact, the first wing will meet the enemy with its sails already turned backward." Halvern smiled thinly. "Unless the glass is lying. It is anchored now, by wedding ribbon and a royal chain placed under her instruction." Tessa reached up to the old iron notch and tapped the black anchor point twice. The sound was low, clean, and wrong for decoration. "The glass does not read me. It reads pressure through anchor weight." She turned to Dorian. "Bring the East chart room copy." Halvern's eyes flicked once toward the Admiralty stairs. Too fast. Tessa saw it. Dorian saw her see it. "Seal the East chart room," the Dragon King ordered. Halvern stepped down from the signal dais. "Your Majesty, if you start sealing rooms during a fleet turn, the foreign houses will think your command is collapsing." "They are watching my ships turn toward enemy cliffs," Dorian said. "They already think that." The first honest murmur came from the foreign rail. A southern duchess in a silver sun veil lowered her fan. "We are not concerned with the wedding now, Your Majesty. We are concerned with whether our alliance ships would be sent under the same compass." Halvern bowed toward her. "They would be sent under verified Admiralty weather." Tessa's voice cut in. "Then let them see the original." 2 guards ran toward the east chart room. Halvern did not stop them. That worried her more than if he had. A man who did not block a door had already moved what mattered. The black weather glass darkened further. The enemy cliffs inside it sharpened, red stone teeth rising through the false sun. The First Wing's lead ship was close enough now that Tessa could see the shadow of cliff batteries in the glass before the naked eye could find them in the glare. "Tell the lead ship to spill sun from the upper left sail," she said. The signal captain hesitated. Dorian looked at him once. The captain shouted into the wind horn, "Lead ship, spill upper left." Far above, the lead ship's upper left sail loosened. The vessel stopped turning for half a breath. Then the red current caught its lower keel and dragged it harder. Tessa cursed under her breath. Halvern seized on it. "There!" Her correction failed. "No," Tessa said. "It proved the current is not above them. It is under the keel line." Dorian turned back to her. "Can you pull them out?" "Not with one ship. The whole wing has to break wedding symmetry and turn ugly." The word struck the dock. Ugly. A formation built for foreign applause had to become crooked to survive. Dorian's face hardened. "Signal it." Halvern moved again. "If the wing breaks royal symmetry in front of the witnesses, the enemy will read disorder. If it stays beautiful," Tessa said, "the enemy will count bodies." The guards returned from the east stair with a locked copper case between them. One had blood on his sleeve. Dorian's eyes narrowed. "Who stopped you?" The guard swallowed. "Chart room was not empty, Your Majesty. 2 Admiralty clerks were burning old vellum." Halvern's expression did not change. Tessa watched his right hand. It did not go to his compass this time. It went to his metal chain. Another wrong object. The guards opened the copper case. Inside lay weather sheets, some charred at the edges, some still curling with smoke. Tessa reached for them, then stopped. "Do not hand them to me." Dorian looked at her. "If I touch them first, he will call the originals contaminated." For the first time, the corner of Dorian's mouth tightened with something like grim respect. Not warmth, recognition of method. He took the top sheet himself and spread it beneath the black weather glass. The glass did not reflect the vellum. It judged it. The black surface released a line of pale wind across the old sheet. Ink rose from beneath heat damage, black at first, then blue. Tessa's current marks returned one by one. Noon reversal, lower keel drag, false sun pull, cliffward bend, and in the lower corner, another mark appeared. A small Admiralty correction stamp. Halvern said, "Standard review." Tessa leaned closer. "No," she said. "That stamp was placed after my mark dried." Dorian read the stamped note aloud. "Storm delay rejected. Wedding turn confirmed. False current risk dismissed as reader instability." The court went quiet. Tessa kept her eyes on the stamp. There should be a witness initial beside rejection. "There is," Dorian said. He touched the lower margin. The black weather glass flashed. A hidden initial burned through the vellum. Not Halvern's, not a clerk's, a royal initial. Dorian stared at it. Tessa did too. D.C., Halvern said softly. His Majesty reviewed the rejection himself. Tessa turned to Dorian. He remembered. She saw it in his face before he spoke. 3 mornings ago, the black noon mark on his war table, Halvern's calm voice. Foreign houses waiting, wedding campaign law prepared. A king choosing speed because doubt would make him look weak. The glass above them groaned. In the sky, the first wing crossed the last safe wind. Inside the glass, enemy cliff batteries opened like red eyes. The first enemy bolt did not strike a ship. It struck the air in front of one. Red fire opened in the daylight like a wound. bursting across the invisible road where the lead vessel would have flown if its pilot had not spilled the upper sail half a breath earlier. The blast rolled beneath the bronze hull, hard enough to throw 3 crewmen against the rail. The sunward sky dock stopped pretending this was a wedding. Signal horns screamed. Dragon ships shuddered in the high wind. Foreign witnesses pressed against the carved balconies, watching Dorian Cael's first wing bend toward enemy cliffs under a sky that still looked clear to anyone foolish enough to trust sunlight. Dorian stood over the original weather sheet with his own burned initial glowing at the corner. They say. Tessa did not look away from it. Neither did he. Halvern Kraus stepped into the silence, as if he had prepared it. His Majesty reviewed the rejection. The Admiralty acted under royal approval. Whatever happens now cannot be placed on Sky Command alone. There it was. Not confession. Distribution. A clean way to spread blood across a throne until no single hand could be cut off for it. Dorian's face went still. Tessa saw memory move behind his eyes. 3 mornings ago. The war table. Her black noon mark. Halvern's assurance that wedding delay would fracture the alliance. Dorian's own hand marking the margin, not because he had read the current, but because he had wanted the procession to hold. She said nothing. Silence made him stand inside it. A second enemy bolt flashed in the glass. This one struck the tailwind behind the 3rd escort ship. The vessel lurched forward, not out of danger, but deeper into the red current. Tessa turned to the signal captain. Order first wing to break symmetry. Every ship cuts lower keel sail and turns by uneven count. 3, 1, 4, 2. The captain looked at Dorian. Signal it, Dorian said. Halvern snapped. If they break uneven, they scatter. If they stay even, they line up for batteries, Tessa said. Dorian did not look at Halvern. Signal it. The captain blew the pattern into the wind horn. High above, flags flashed. For a breath, nothing changed. Then the first wing became ugly. Beautiful wedding formation collapsed into jagged angles. Bronze hulls staggered apart. White sails twisted at different heights. One ship dropped too sharply. Another rose crooked. The court murmured in horror, because royal pageantry had been trained to fear disorder more than death. The black weather glass brightened at the edges. Again, Tessa said. They need a second uneven count. Halvern strode toward the tower. No, I countermand. Restore royal line before the enemy reads weakness. Dorian caught him by the front of his admiral's coat. The metals clattered. No ship follows the sun compass, Dorian said. Halvern's eyes narrowed. Then whose signal do they follow? Hers? Tessa looked toward the glass. The answer hurt because it was procedural, not glorious. They follow true wind, she said. But the glass cannot broadcast while it hangs in a wedding frame. We anchored it, Dorian said. We anchored its sight, not its voice. A ship in the glass lost part of its rear sail. Crewmen moved across the deck like insects under a burning lens. Dorian released Halvern and turned to her. What does it need? The storm waits. Halvern laughed once. Conveniently missing. Tessa looked at the archway. Not missing. Displayed. 4 black iron storm weights had been polished with gold leaf and hung from the wedding canopy as decorative bells. Noble children had tied white ribbons through the rings. The court had walked beneath them all morning without knowing the objects above their heads had once kept fleets from flying blind. Tessa climbed the first stair of the wedding arch. A guard moved to stop her. Dorian said, "Let her work." Again, not apology. A useful door opening late. Tessa tore the first storm weight free. Gold leaf flaked under her fingers, revealing the black iron beneath. She hooked it to the weather glass's lower chain. The glass steadied. The second weight was heavier. Dorian reached for it. She stopped him with a look. Do not pull from the ribbon, pull from the ring. He obeyed. The weight dropped into his hands with a force that made his shoulders tense. For the first time that day, the Dragon King held the hidden heaviness of the tool his court had made pretty. Tessa took it and locked it opposite the first. The glass deepened from black to star-dark. A true current line formed across its surface, but it did not extend to the fleet. "It still cannot speak," she said. Halvern smiled. "Then her old relic has reached the limit of its drama." Tessa looked at his belt. The cracked sun compass still burned red from within. "No," she said. "Something is speaking over it." Dorian turned. Halvern's hand moved toward the compass. Dorian's dragonbone dagger was at the admiral's throat before the hand arrived. "Remove it," the king said. Halvern's smile thinned. "Your Majesty, touching an admiral's compass during active command is an act of—" "Remove it." Halvern unhooked the compass and placed it on the black railing. Tessa did not touch it. She took the original weather sheet instead and held it beneath the glass. Pressure memory first, object second. The glass sent a narrow line of cold starlight down through the sheet. The red enemy flare inside the compass shivered. Then the compass opened fully, its golden lid splitting like a seed. Inside was not merely a flare. It was a sliver of red sunstone tied with hair-thin command wire. Dorian stared at it. Tessa's breath caught. That wire was used only on royal signal banners, because it carried command wind farther than horn or flag. Halvern spoke carefully. "Emergency amplifier. Standard for wedding demonstration." "No," Tessa said. "It is tied backward." Dorian's eyes cut to her. She pointed to the tiny knot. "Royal signal wire pulls ships toward the banner. This knot pulls the banner's current toward the false sun." The glass flashed. Above them, Dorian's wedding banner snapped violently east. Every ship in the first wing tilted with it. The court cried out. Halvern had not only hidden the current, he had tied it to the king's own banner. Tessa looked at Dorian. "If that banner stays raised," she said, "your fleet will obey you into enemy fire." The royal wedding banner pulled east like a living thing. Its black and gold cloth strained from the mast above the sunward sky dock, every embroidered dragon on it twisting toward the enemy coast. High above the harbor, the first wing obeyed. Ships that had begun to stagger free were dragged back into the red current, their sails bending toward the false sun, as if loyalty itself had become a hook. Dorian Cael stared at his own banner. For one breath, no one spoke. Then Halvern Krause made the silence useful. "If the banner falls," he said, voice carrying cleanly over the dock, "the fleet will read royal collapse, enemy watchers will read fear, foreign witnesses will read a dragon king unable to hold command on his wedding day." Dorian did not look at him. "Cut the banner line." A wave of horror passed through the court. The bride's herald stepped back from the wedding arch. Foreign witnesses leaned forward. A royal banner was not cloth. It was command, wind, oath, thread, crown signal, and public proof that the fleet belonged to the king. Halvern's face sharpened. "Your Majesty, I formally advise against dishonoring the wedding standard. The banner is carrying my ships into enemy fire." "Because she says it is. Because I can see it." Tessa was already moving. She climbed the wedding arch with salt wind tearing at her hair, one hand on the black weather glass, the other reaching for the decorative frame that held it like an ornament instead of a working instrument. Gold ribbon cut across the anchor grooves. White flowers were packed into the north hook. Pearl cord looped through the mouth of the glass where the true wind chain should have hung. Pretty enough to kill men. A signal officer lifted a blade toward the royal banner line. Halvern snapped. "Any man who cuts that line before Sky Command confirms hostile fire commits treason under campaign law." The officer froze. Dorian turned. "Treason answers to the crown," he said. "During active formation, treason answers to Sky Command." The words struck the dock harder than the enemy bolts. Tessa looked down from the arch. Dorian's own wedding campaign law had not only delayed correction, it had placed his banner inside Halvern's operational command until the procession turn completed. Halvern had tied the false sun to the banner because he knew the king could not easily cut what the law had made sacred for that hour. Dorian saw it too. "His Yafset, then I will cut it myself." He reached for the signal officer's blade. Tessa said, "No." Every eye moved to her. She did not enjoy that. Attention was useless unless it helped the sky. If you cut it while the false current still holds the command wire, she said, the first wing will snap free without direction, half will scatter into cliff fire, half will collide with the second line. Halvern seized on it. Even she admits cutting the banner kills them. No, Tessa said. I admit, correction must have sequence. She pulled the first ribbon free from the glass frame. The gold cloth tore with a sound like a small ceremony dying. The banner must be grounded, she said, not cut. The false current needs a living command path. Deny it height. Dorian looked at the mast. Lower the banner. Halvern moved toward the signal dais. Counter order. Banner remains raised until formation completes. Dorian's eyes turned cold. Remove Admiral Krause from the dais. 2 guards hesitated. Halvern smiled. Touching active sky command during procession is unlawful seizure. Tessa smashed the wedding frame. The sound cracked across the dock. Gold ribs broke away from the black weather glass. White fire lilies dropped in burning clumps. The court recoiled as pieces of the decorative crown frame scattered over the steps. The glass swung free at last. Not beautiful, useful. Its black surface deepened until the dock, the fleet, the enemy cliffs, and the noon sun all bent inside it at once. Tessa caught the true north hook with bleeding fingers. Storm weight 3. Dorian took the 3rd storm weight from the canopy himself and lifted it toward her. Halvern shouted, "She's dismantling the wedding arch." Tessa locked the weight into place. The wedding arch is not flying into batteries. The glass steadied. Inside it, the red current split open, showing its understructure. False sun pull, banner wire, lower keel drag, cliffward bend. At the center of the current, a blank place appeared where the weather record should have named the source. Tessa's throat tightened. Your records were not only replaced, she said. They were hollowed. Dorian stepped closer beneath the arch. Meaning? The false current was given an empty weather name. The glass cannot warn a ship away from danger the record refuses to name. Halvern spoke through clenched teeth. Nonsense. Tessa looked down at him. Then say the name. The Admiral was silent. There. Not fear of guilt. Fear of naming the wind. Tessa reached into the inner frame of the glass and found the old anchor groove beneath the polish. Her thumb slipped into place by memory. She had set this glass through storms, salt squalls, black sunrises, and dragonfire drift. She had done it without applause, without crown permission, without anyone asking who made clean victories possible. The weather name was in my original sheet, she said. False sun current, eastern underpull, enemy coast return, marked before dawn. Dorian looked at Halvern. Why is it gone? Halvern's voice stayed calm. Because false weather names induce pilot panic. I corrected unstable terminology before wedding formation. You erased what they needed to avoid. I preserved command clarity. Another enemy bolt opened in the glass. This time, it struck close enough for the lead ship's hull to flash red. Tessa gripped the anchor groove. Lower the banner by 3 rings. Not full drop. Ground the command wind, but leave the ships a royal point to turn from. Dorian repeated the order himself. The banner crew obeyed. The royal standard slid down the mast 1 ring. Tfo. 3. The red current faltered. In the glass, the first wing stopped bending east. Tessa breathed once. Too early. Halvern pulled the metal chain from his chest and snapped a hidden clasp. A second sun compass fell into his palm. Smaller, black-backed, military issue. He crushed it. A red flare burst upward from his hand and shot into the sky. The enemy cliffs answered. 3 red batteries opened at once. The black weather glass filled with fire. Tessa saw the pattern and went cold. That was not a correction flare, she said. Dorian's blade was already at Halvern's throat. Halvern smiled. No, the Admiral said. It was confirmation. In the sky, the enemy batteries turned away from the first wing, toward the second. The second wing had not entered the red current yet. That was the only mercy left in the sky. Its ships still held high formation above the outer harbor. Bronze sails spread wide, dragon keels flashing beneath clear noon. They were farther from the cliffs than the first wing, but they were heavier, slower, built to carry wedding tribute cannons and foreign honor banners. If the enemy batteries caught them while their sails were full, they would not turn. They would burn beautifully. Tessa Brine saw the pattern in the black weather glass before the signal tower did. "The batteries are not firing at the nearest ships," she said. Dorian Cael's blade remained at Halvern's throat. "Explain." "They are waiting for the second wing to answer the confirmation flare." Halvern smiled, with the edge of the knife touching his skin. "Because the second wing is the shield line. Any competent commander would bring them forward." "No," Tessa said. "You sent them an enemy invitation and dressed it as shield protocol." The lower signal platform exploded with red flags. A tower captain shouted down, "Second wing requests command. Enemy batteries have shifted sight, awaiting royal banner or admiralty signal." Halvern's voice rose, clear and cold. "Second wing advances to shield the wedding fleet." Dorian pressed the blade closer. "You do not command. Under confirmed enemy battery, Admiralty combat law activates automatically," Halvern said. "You wanted hostile fire confirmed. Now it is. And the Admiralty speaks." The dock turned toward Dorian. So did the foreign witnesses. So did every pilot on every platform who had been trained since childhood that in open sky, hesitation killed faster than flame. Tessa did not look at any of them. She looked at the glass. "The second wing must not advance," she said. "They must flatten sails, spill honor banners, and turn belly out to the noon wind." A horrified murmur ran through the wedding guests. Belly out was not formation. It was survival posture. Ugly, exposed, undignified. A dragon ship showed its belly only when avoiding a killing current or surrendering to storm. Halvern laughed. "You would have royal ships show their bellies before foreign houses and enemy cliffs? I would have them live. You would have them scatter. I would have them stop presenting full sail to 3 batteries already aligned." Dorian looked from the sky to the glass. The glass gave him no beauty. In its black surface, the second wing appeared as a line of bright targets, every tribute banner catching sun, every keel edge angled exactly where the enemy wanted it. Dorian lowered his blade from Halvern's throat. For one breath, the Admiral thought he had won. Then Dorian said, "Signal second wing, belly, out. Spill honor banners. No ship advances under Admiralty flare." The signal captain hesitated only once. Then he obeyed. Flags snapped. Horns blew. Wind orders ran up the tower and burst into the sky. The second wing shuddered. One ship turned. Then another. Then the whole formation broke its wedding shape, rolling their hulls hard against sunlight, tribute banners spilling loose like torn royal pride. Gasps rose from the balconies as foreign witnesses saw Dorian's ceremonial fleet twist itself into something no painter would ever flatter. Enemy fire opened. 3 red bolts crossed the sky. They struck empty air where full sails would have been. The dock went silent. Tessa breathed once through her teeth. Not relief. Calculation. "Again," she said. "Lower left keels. They must cut under the false glare." Dorian repeated it at once. Halvern's smile faded. That was more satisfying than his fear would have been. He stepped back from the blade and lifted both hands as if surrendering to reason. "Your Majesty, I request formal record that the second wing has abandoned shield duty under the direction of a dismissed weather reader whose original rejection you personally reviewed." There it was. Not battle command now. Future trial. If ships died, Halvern would have a chain of blame ready. Tessa's signal, Dorian's panic, weather, reader interference, foreign witness, humiliation. Tessa turned from the glass. "Record this too. The enemy batteries fired on the position your confirmation flare called them to strike." Halvern looked at her. She saw the smallest tightening around his eyes. "A hit. Coincidence in combat," he said. Then the glass can prove it. He went still. The black weather glass was still anchored with storm weights, command chain, torn wedding ribbon, and old iron hook. It had sight. It had weight. It still lacked one thing. Ship echo, Tessa said. Dorian turned. What? To prove who called the batteries, the glass needs a ship echo from the flare line, a piece of sail, banner thread, signal ash, something that touched the false command. Halvern spoke too quickly. Impossible. The flare has already burned. Tessa looked at the wedding banner, now lowered 3 rings but still snapping violently. Its lower edge was scorched red where the false current had climbed it. That touched it. The banner was too high to reach from the dock. Dorian did not call for a ladder. He climbed. The wedding mast rose above the arch, slick with salt and gold polish. Wind tore at his mantle as he climbed past the first ring, the second, the third. The court watched its Dragon King climb like a deckhand while enemy batteries fired at his fleet. Tessa kept her eyes on the glass. Not on him. If she watched him, she might think about the wrong thing. The first wing had begun to clear the worst of the lower pull. The second wing was ugly but alive. The red current still ran beneath both, waiting for one beautiful mistake. Dorian cut a scorched thread from the banner and dropped back to the dock. His palm was bleeding where the mast rings had torn through ceremonial glove. He handed the thread to Tessa. Not like a favor, like evidence. She placed it against the black weather glass. The glass swallowed the thread's shadow. For a heartbeat, the surface showed only darkness. Then the sky inside it unfolded backward. The confirmation flare rose again. The red batteries answered. The false current bent. The sun compass cracked. The banner pulled east. And behind the flare, faint but unmistakable, another signal appeared. A hidden Admiralty lantern from the rear command ship. Halvern's rear command ship. Dorian stared at it. Halvern's face closed. Tessa leaned closer. The lantern flashed 3 times in the glass. Not attack. Not shield. Sacrifice corridor confirmed. The wedding dock seemed to tilt beneath her feet. Dorian's voice went quiet. What is a sacrifice corridor? Tessa looked at the second wing in the real sky. Then at the first. Then at the rear command ship sitting safely behind both. It means the enemy was never meant to destroy the whole armada, she said. Only the ships he marked as weather loss. The glass darkened deeper. Names began to appear along the sails of the second wing. Not ship names, crew lists. And every marked vessel was staffed with pilots who had testified against Halvern's last campaign. A pilot's mother screamed from the lower dock. Not because she understood the words sacrifice corridor. Most of the court did not. But she knew the name that had burned across the glass. She knew the ship. She knew the sun standing beneath that sail, because he had once come home from Halvern's last campaign with half his crew missing and a report he refused to sign. The sound tore through the wedding silence. Halvern Krause used it. Panic, he said, turning to the foreign witnesses. This is what false weather does. It turns mothers into mobs and courts into mutiny. Tessa did not look away from the black weather glass. Those crew lists were not drawn from panic. They were drawn from your accusation. They were drawn from the flare line. Halvern's voice hardened. And the flare line passed through a glass you touched, a banner thread you selected, and a royal chain you directed His Majesty to anchor. Every new vision conveniently serves your rebellion. Dorian's hand closed around the scorched banner thread. Tessa saw the trap. Halvern could not deny the pattern now, so he would make the pattern hers. The admiral stepped onto the signal dais and raised his voice to the fleet horns. All vessels, disregard unauthorized glass reflections. Rear command ship assumes full admiralty control under combat confusion clause. Marked crew lists are enemy psychological weather. The tower captain stared at Dorian. The foreign witnesses stared too. So did the pilots waiting at the lower gangways. Dorian did not move fast enough. In the sky, Halvern's rear command ship answered with a white flare. White meant purification of signal. White meant erase conflicting orders. White meant every wing captain trained under Admiralty law must ignore local flags and return to Central Command. The first wing hesitated. The second wing began to turn back. Tessa's stomach went cold. "No," she said. "If they return to Central Command, they re-enter the corridor." Halvern's eyes flicked to her. "Then perhaps your glass should have thought of that before frightening the fleet." Dorian stepped toward the horn. "Fleet holds current survival pattern." The tower captain lifted the horn. Halvern struck the man across the mouth with his command baton. Blood hit the black railing. The court erupted. Dorian seized Halvern's wrist, but the admiral had already spoken the law. Under Combat Confusion Clause, any royal order influenced by an accused weather reader must be held pending Admiralty verification. Tessa felt the dock shift beneath her. Not the stone. Authority. Every structure around her had been built so that when weather threatened powerful men, they could call warning confusion and return to the old command path. Dorian's blade came free. Halvern did not flinch. "Kill me before foreign witnesses and you prove the Sky Command collapse I warned them about." The enemy batteries fired again. This time, the bolts did not strike empty air. One clipped the outer sail of the second wing's 7th ship. Fire ran along the wing rib. Crewmen scrambled to cut burning cloth while the vessel drifted toward the corridor line. Tessa grabbed the lowered wedding banner. Dorian turned. "What are you doing?" Giving the glass a voice. "The banner is still tied to command wind." "I know." Halvern laughed. "She admits it." Tessa tore the scorched lower strip from the royal banner with both hands. The cloth resisted, threaded with crown oath and dragon signal. It cut across her palms before it gave way. She wrapped the strip around the black weather glass's lower anchor, binding royal command to weather sight. The glass shook, hard, not like an object waking, like a storm refusing a false name. Dorian took one step toward her. Tessa lifted one bloody hand. "Do not touch it unless you are ready for the fleet to hear what it shows." His eyes locked on hers. The air between them sharpened. He was Dragon King, husband-to-be, commander of 300 ships, the man whose approval had helped reject her warning. If he gave the weatherglass royal voice now, he did not merely admit Halvern's signal was suspect. He allowed a dismissed weather reader to speak through the crown wind before every foreign witness and every ship under his command. Halvern saw the choice. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "if you do this, Sky Command will record that you surrendered royal formation to the woman who falsified the campaign delay." Tessa spoke before Dorian could answer. "Do not make this about me." He looked at her. "Make it about the ships." A red bolt struck the water below the second wing. Steam climbed so high it swallowed 2 vessels from view. Dorian placed his burned palm against the banner-wrapped anchor. The weather glass went blacker than night. Then it spoke, not with a human voice, with wind. Every horn on the sunward skydock answered. Every dragon sail in the armada shivered. The glass sent the true current into the fleet. "Break Central Command, spill lower keels, turn west by storm count, ignore white flare." For one breath, the sky waited. Then the first ship obeyed. Not the royal flagship, not a noble escort, a battered second-wing vessel whose crew list still glowed inside the glass. It rolled belly out, cut lower keel, and turned west. Another followed, then another. Halvern's face changed. The rear command ship fired a black flare. Tessa's heart stopped. Black flare was not correction. It was accusation. Mutiny mark. Across the sky, every ship that had followed the glass suddenly burned with black signal fire along its mast. Under Admiralty combat law, marked mutineers could be fired upon by loyal vessels. Dorian understood a breath after she did. The rear command ship had not only prepared a sacrifice corridor, it had prepared permission to kill survivors who escaped it. Halvern's voice rang across the dock. "Royal, loyal ships contain mutiny." The third wing turned its cannons toward the marked vessels. Tessa gripped the glass so hard her blood ran down its frame. Inside the black surface, the true current map began to fracture under cannon light. Dorian looked from the fleet to the foreign houses, then to the wedding crown waiting beneath the arch. If he denounced Halvern now, he risked open command civil war in the sky. If he hesitated, his loyal ships would fire on the pilots who had trusted Tessa's signal. Tessa looked up at him. "No ship survives a king who waits to see which truth is safer," she said. The third wing's cannons lit. The cannons did not fire together. That saved the first ship. One third wing captain hesitated half a breath before obeying the black mutiny mark, and in that half breath, Tessa saw the pattern in the weatherglass fracture cleanly enough to read. The loyal cannons were not aiming at crews, they were aiming at mast flames. If the black signal fire stayed on the ships, Admiralty law would keep calling them mutineers until their own allies burned them from the sky. "Do not shoot the hulls," she said. Dorian turned toward her. She pointed into the glass. "The black marks are riding the mast wires. Cut the signal fire, not the ships." Halvern laughed, sharp and triumphant. "Listen to her. She now instructs loyal vessels to strike royal rigging during enemy contact." Tessa ignored him. "Third wing must fire low blue, not red. Blue breaks signal flame. Red breaks wood." The signal captain pressed a cloth to his bleeding mouth. "Blue shot is weather discipline, not combat command." "Then use weather discipline." Halvern stepped onto the dais again. "Weather discipline has no authority during mutiny containment." Dorian's voice went cold. "It does now." "No," Halvern said. "Not unless the king formally transfers sky correction from Admiralty to Weather Command before witnesses." The dock went silent beneath the war. Tessa understood the trap at once. A formal transfer would record that Dorian had broken his own wedding campaign chain in public, before foreign houses, while enemy batteries were firing. If any ship fell after that, the loss would belong to his command, not Halvern's. Dorian looked at the sky. The third wing's first red cannon burst, skimmed past a marked vessel, and tore through its rear sail. Men fell against rail lines. A dragon ship tilted hard, almost colliding with the ship below it. Tessa's hands tightened around the glass frame. "Do it," she said. Halvern smiled. "Yes, Your Majesty. Surrender command to the woman whose warning you personally rejected." Dorian looked at Tessa then. She gave him nothing soft. "Not to me," she said. "To the weather you refused to read." The words struck him harder than mercy would have. He turned to the foreign witnesses. "Record this before every house present. Sky correction transfers to Weather Command until the false current is broken. No ship fires red on a black-marked mast. Blue weather shot only. No vessel follows the white flare. No vessel follows Admiral Krause." The court erupted. Halvern's expression did not break, but his eyes did. Only for a moment. "Enough." The signal captain lifted the horn with shaking hands. "Weather command active. Blue shot only. Break mast fire. Hold hulls." The order ran into the sky. The third wing fired. Blue flares cracked across the marked masts like cold lightning. Black signal fire tore loose from the first ship, then the second, then 5 more. The branded vessels rolled west under Tessa's true current, ugly and alive, while red enemy bolts struck the corridor where they had been moments before. Foreign witnesses rose from their seats. Not for the wedding, for survival. Tessa kept reading the glass. The true current had steadied around the first and second wings, but the false sun road still pulled at the lower keels. Halvern's rear command ship remained behind the formation, too far from enemy range, too close to every order that had nearly killed men who once testified against him. "There," she said. "His command ship is still feeding the flare line." Dorian turned to Halvern. "Order it to lower signal mast." Halvern's smile returned, thinner now. "I cannot." "You will." "I cannot," he repeated. "Rear command has entered sealed combat drift. If I break its mast signal without proper key, the fleet loses Admiralty coordination entirely." Tessa looked into the weather glass. The rear command ship appeared inside it, its black keel polished, its signal mast crowned with a sun lens. Beneath the deck, a red pulse moved in time with the false current. Not coordination, she said. Anchor. Dorian's eyes cut to her. The false sun current is not only tied to your banner, it is being anchored from his rear command ship. As long as that mast holds, the current keeps a mouth in the sky. Halvern's voice cooled. She invents another layer because the first did not condemn me fast enough. Tessa reached toward the glass. This time it did not accept her hand. The surface rippled away, dark and resistant. Her stomach tightened. Dorian saw it. What happened? It needs the original storm weight for rear wind. We use 3. The 4th was not decorative. She looked up. The last storm weight still hung high above the wedding arch, wrapped in gold leaf and white flowers. It had been placed at the very center of the bridal canopy, directly under the sun crown, where no weather reader could reach without stepping onto the ceremonial marriage bridge. Halvern followed her gaze and smiled fully. Of course, he said. That weight belongs to the wedding right now. No unmarried woman crosses that bridge before the bride. The bride's herald went pale. The court held its breath for the wrong reason. Tessa looked at Dorian. If the glass does not get rear weight, it cannot map his command ship's anchor. Then I cross. No, she said. The weight responds to the hand that set the warning. If you take it down, it becomes crown metal, not weather balance. Halvern lifted his voice. Then she admits she cannot proceed without defiling the wedding rite. Tessa stared at the narrow bridge above them, garlanded in white flame lilies, watched by every foreign house and every pilot waiting for another order. She stepped onto it. Gasps rose like birds. Dorian did not stop her. That mattered, but not enough to forgive. The bridge swayed under her boots. Wind tore at her gray dress. Below, Halvern called for guards. Dorian's voice stopped them before they moved. Tessa climbed the inner arch and reached the 4th storm weight. The black weather glass below turned upward toward her. A red enemy bolt struck near the 2nd wing, bathing the dock in firelight. Tessa tore the flowers from the weight. Under the gold leaf, a name had been scratched into the iron. Not hers, not Dorian's. Brine, her father's hand. The old weather reader who had died during Halvern's last campaign. Her breath left her. The glass below showed the rear command ship again. On its hidden anchor mast, the same name had been carved into a dead report tag. Halvern had used her father's final storm weight to hide the current that killed his witnesses. Tessa ripped the weight free. The wedding canopy split above her. The 4th storm weight fell into the black weather glass. The glass went utterly dark. Then her father's last weather record began to speak. The 4th storm weight struck the black weather glass with a sound too deep for any wedding bell to cover. The dock felt it through stone. The gold ribbon, still wrapped around the weight, burned away in a single black breath. White fire lilies fell from the broken canopy and turned to ash before they touched the floor. Above, Tessa clung to the torn marriage bridge with one hand, wind tearing at her gray dress, while every ship in the sky waited under orders that had begun to split a kingdom. The weather glass did not show her father's face. It did not comfort her. It opened the last record he had left. Lines of wind pressure spread across the black surface like bone under skin. Rear current, false sun anchor, enemy cliff pull, sacrifice corridor, admiralty lantern. Then, a smaller mark appeared beneath the others, carved in the old weather notation Tessa had learned before she could write court script. Brine, rear weight warning. Do not place command behind the fleet. Tessa's throat closed. Not grief yet. Reading first. Grief after. Dorian Cael looked up at her from below. What does it say? Halvern Krause answered before she could. It says nothing useful. Her father was dismissed after the last campaign for unstable storm practice. Of course, she kept his superstition. Tessa climbed down the broken arch with the 4th weight chain in one hand. Her palms were bleeding from banner thread and iron hooks. She landed beside the glass and pressed the storm weight into its old rear notch. The glass steadied so hard the air around it stopped trembling. This is not a voice, she said. It is a pressure record. She touched the brine mark. The glass unfolded, the last campaign in silence. A rear command ship sat safely behind two forward wings. A false sun current ran beneath them. The front vessels turned wrong. Enemy cliffs opened fire. Then, when surviving pilots broke formation and tried to turn out, a black mutiny mark burned on their masts. The court watched yesterday's lie become today's pattern. Names appeared on the old sails. Not all of them. Only the crews who had survived long enough to challenge Halvern's report. One of those names was Brine. Dorian read it aloud. Eamon Brine, Rear Weather Command. My father, Tessa said. Halvern's jaw tightened. A disgraced reader whose errors cost ships. Tessa looked at him. No. A reader who marked your first sacrifice corridor. The foreign witnesses did not whisper now. They listened like people measuring whether their own ships had been nearly purchased with blood. Dorian turned to Halvern. You knew this current. I knew bad weather could be made useful by enemies. You hid it. I contained panic. You used my banner to repeat it. I preserved formation, Halvern snapped, because kings who let weather, readers, frighten fleets, lose wars before enemies fire a bolt. Tessa looked back into the glass. The present sky lay over the old record now, one current matching the other so closely it made her skin feel cold. The first campaign was your proof run, she said. Today was the public version. Halvern lifted his chin. Careful, storm reader. No, Dorian said. She will finish. Tessa did not thank him. She pointed to the rear command ship in the glass. That mast holds the current anchor. The false sun does not need the whole fleet. It needs one ship behind the wings to keep the red road open. Dorian looked toward the real sky. Halvern's rear command ship still sat clean and distant, behind the danger, its black keel shining in noon. Signal it to lower mast, he said. The tower captain raised the horn. The rear command ship did not answer. Halvern smiled. Dorian's face hardened. Again, the horn called. Flags flashed. Blue correction lights ran up the signal tower. Still nothing. Tessa stared into the glass. The rear command ship's mast was not ignoring them. It had been cut off from receiving. Sealed drift, she said. He locked the ship before the flare. Halvern's smile faded at the edge. Dorian drew one breath through his teeth. Can the weather glass break the current from here? No. The word hit the dock like a falling mast. Tessa kept reading. It can show the true line. It can carry weather voice. But an anchored false current has to be broken at its mouth. The rear mast, Dorian said. Yes. Enemy fire flashed again across the sky. The second wing held ugly survival posture, but the false current still clawed under its keels. Blue weather shots had stripped the black mutiny flames from most ships, yet the corridor remained open, waiting for exhaustion. One mistake, one sail pulled too clean. Dorian turned toward the royal flagship, waiting at the nearest gangway. Halvern saw the thought and laughed. You would leave your own wedding dock under enemy fire because a glass shows a ghost map? Dorian looked at him. Because my ships are there. Then you abandon the foreign witnesses. A northern lord spoke from the balcony. We are witnessing. Dorian's eyes did not leave Halvern. And you abandon your command. Halvern's hand moved toward his empty compass belt. Nothing there. Tessa saw his other hand move instead, toward the admiralty ring on his thumb. Stop him, she said. Too late. Halvern twisted the ring. In the sky, the rear command ship's mast burst red from base to crown. The weather glass blackened at the edges. He is burning the anchor, Tessa said. Dorian frowned. Would that not break the current? No, she said. It will hide the proof and throw the current loose. The red road in the glass began to unravel. Not vanish. Spread. Toward every wing. Toward the wedding dock. Toward the foreign ships waiting beyond the harbor. Halvern's voice rang with terrible satisfaction. There. No anchor. No record. Only weather failure. Tessa looked at Dorian. For the first time, his certainty was gone. Good. Certainty had nearly killed them. "The current has to be caught before it scatters," she said, with a stronger command wind. "The royal banner," he said. She nodded once. "If you fly it into the false sun, the fleet can turn on your correction. And if I fail?" Tessa looked up at the sky, where enemy cliffs burned red behind daylight. "Then the weather record will finally name the king who followed his own lie to the end." The royal flagship tore free of the wedding dock before the bride's veil finished burning in the wind. Dorian Cael did not wait for a crown, a blessing, or a corrected law. He crossed the gangway with the lowered royal banner in one hand and the scorched command chain in the other. His white and black wedding armor stripped of ceremony by smoke, salt, and the first honest fear his court had seen on him all day. Tessa stayed beneath the black weather glass. That was where the fleet needed her. The glass showed the false sun current unraveling across the sky like spilled fire. Without Halvern's rear mast to hold it tight, the red road was spreading under every wing, under the foreign ships beyond the harbor, under the dock itself. What had been a sacrifice corridor was becoming a sky-wide weather failure, clean enough to deny, large enough to bury everyone. Halvern Krause stood between two guards now, but his voice remained steady. "You cannot prove intent from broken weather." Tessa did not look at him. "I do not need your intent. I need the current's mouth." The fourth storm weight trembled in its notch. Her father's old mark burned along the glass frame. "Brine rear weight warning. Do not place command behind the fleet." Dorian's flagship lifted into the sky. The court watched its Dragon King fly not at the head of a beautiful procession, but beneath it, into the ugly underside of the wind. The royal banner dragged behind him, lowered from glory into weatherwork. Its black and gold cloth snapped so hard the sound reached the dock like a whip. Tessa gripped the anchor chain. "Tell him to turn south by broken count." The signal captain looked at her now without waiting for Dorian. He blew the order. The flagship tilted. Enemy fire opened. Red bolts crossed the air around Dorian's vessel, but he did not climb toward the clean sun. He dove beneath it, exactly where no wedding formation would ever go. The black weather glass deepened. The false current reached for the royal banner, like a predator recognizing meat. "Lower," Tessa said. The captain repeated. The flagship dropped. Foreign witnesses shouted. Noblewomen turned away. Pilots cursed from lower platforms because every instinct said a king should rise above danger, not drag his banner into the throat of it. Tessa's hands tightened on the chain until old cuts reopened. "Not yet," she whispered. Dorian's ship entered the red current. The royal banner snapped east. The entire fleet shuddered. For one terrible heartbeat, every ship began turning toward the false sun. Halvern smiled. Then Tessa slammed her bloodied palm against the weather glass. "True wind," she said. "Not crown wind, not wedding wind, true wind." The glass answered with night. At noon, stars opened inside its black surface. They were not beautiful, they were fixed points. Old sky, honest sky. The kind weather readers used before kings thought banners could command air. The royal banner inside the glass twisted. Dorian's flagship fought the pull. Tessa saw him at the helm, one arm locked around the banner chain, his face white with strain as the command wind tried to drag his own fleet through him. He had trusted Halvern. He had approved the rejection. He had chosen ceremony over warning. Now his body stood between that mistake and the ships it had almost killed. "West by storm count," Tessa said. The signal horn cried. One by one, the wings answered. First, the battered ship with the burned rear sail. Then, the second wing vessel whose crew had testified against Halvern. Then the foreign escort ships, choosing survival over protocol. Blue weather shot cracked across the sky, not at enemies, but at false fire clinging to mast wires. The fleet turned ugly, crooked, alive. The false sun current tightened around Dorian's banner. Tessa saw the mouth, not in the enemy cliffs, not in the burned rear mast, in the Admiralty command mark woven into the wedding banner itself. Halvern had hidden the final anchor inside the cloth Dorian was meant to raise before the vows. Tessa turned slowly, cut the Admiralty thread from the wedding banner record. Halvern's face changed. Finally, "No," he said. The word was small. The black weather glass heard it. The glass showed the wedding banner being embroidered 3 nights earlier. Halvern's own hand guided a red command wire beneath the gold dragons. A clerk beside him held Tessa's rejected weather sheet. Another held Tessa Brine's rear weight record. Halvern had not only repeated an old crime, he had stitched it into the king's marriage. The foreign houses saw. The pilots saw. Dorian saw from the sky, through the weather voice. His blade flashed aboard the flagship. He cut the red Admiralty thread out of his own wedding banner. The false sun current screamed. No voice, no mouth, only pressure tearing loose from the lie that had named it safe. The black weather glass shattered its decorative frame completely. A line of true wind burst from the glass across the harbor, through the fleet, under every dragon sail. Ships rolled west by storm count. Enemy bolts struck empty glare. The first wing cleared the cliffs. The second wing broke the corridor. The third lowered cannons from allied masts. Dorian's flagship rose last, banner torn, armor burned, command chain blackened in his hand. The wedding dock did not cheer. It counted ships. Tessa made them do it aloud. First wing, damaged, alive. Second wing, 3 hulls burned, no ships lost. Third wing, loyal fire held. Rear command ship, seized. Marked cruise, recovered. Only when the Count reached the last vessel did she allow herself one breath that was not work. Halvern stood silent now. Dorian returned to the dock without the wedding crown. He carried the torn banner himself and laid it beneath the black weather glass. Then he placed his own initialed rejection sheet beside it. DC still burned in the margin. Admiral Halvern Krause is stripped of Sky Command, he said before the court. The foreign houses, the pilots, and the woman whose warning he had used too late. His records, signals, campaign laws, and prior weather failures will be opened under fleet witness. Halvern lifted his chin. And your approval? Dorian looked at the glowing initial. It will be read first. The court went still. Tessa did not soften. Good men could still sign fatal orders when they wanted the sky to look obedient. Dorian turned toward her. Where does the glass stand now? Not what do I do with you? Not will you forgive me? Where does the truth need to stand? Tessa looked at the sunward sky dock, stripped of flowers, smoke-stained, its wedding arch broken around a working instrument at last. Above the signal tower, she said. Anchored, weighted, unadorned. Every pilot sees it before every banner. Dorian nodded once, then stepped behind her, not beside her, while workers raised the black weather glass with its old chains restored. In its surface, noon returned. Not clean, true. The royal wedding did not resume. The armada did.